A few months ago, I stumbled across this photo album where the owner of Chronicle City has a lot of games for sale. The last stop before eBay, it says. And there are so many games here. So I thought I would order some stuff that I had not been able to find elsewhere. And today, it arrived. So let's open it up and see what I picked from this fantastic collection, which is disappearing from the original hands into new hands. In a sense, I ordered two of the same, as I was looking to complete this collection. So as you can see, I have an early edition. This is probably the revised first edition of Ars Magica. All right, this is from 1989. And we have the fourth edition of Ars Magica, which means I now have all the editions. And of course, there are some of you out there, I'm sure, who are wondering why I would want such a thing. But I do like to have the core books for each edition of a game that I enjoy to see simply how it developed over time, which parts of it that I liked maybe proved to be unwieldy, and which parts that I didn't like have proved to endure, and the reverse, and that sort of thing. I enjoy seeing games that I enjoy grow over time. And in the case of Ars Magica, I didn't start into the game until it had reached its third edition. I've had the second and third edition for quite some time, and I'm only now exploring the fourth and fifth editions, which both came out after I was over here. This edition I have never seen, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the game was in its initial conception. And I'm surprised, I guess, to learn that at the time of its release, it had won the Gen Con Origins Gamers' Choice Award for Best Fantasy Role-Playing Game of 1988. Now, I don't know, maybe it was the only fantasy role-playing game of 1988, but it's interesting to know that the power of this game was recognized early on. And this game did a lot to shake up fantasy gaming, at least in my opinion. Now, I got three things in this order. Angus was kind enough to bundle them all together so I wouldn't have to worry about them. And so while these are old games, used and loved, the next one is new. This is a science fiction role-playing game along the line of Event Horizon and Alien, as you can see. This is called Cold&Dark. But let's take a quick run through the early Ars Magica. Right? See, fairly large font size and some interesting art. I've been reading it a little bit in between takes, and I like how open it is about what it is. The game doesn't have any trouble talking to you about what it's intended to be. Remember, Ars Magica is a game that involves troop-style play. You are intended to play multiple characters of different social ranks. And it comes out and says things like, by allowing wizards to be as powerful as they are in legend, Ars Magica rejects the assumption that all player character types should roughly balance out in power. And this is something that's been a principle of my gaming since long before I ever found this game, and it's nice to know that, you weren't alone in such ideas. Yes, very cool. So, very simple, effective use of black and white art, and from the appearance at any rate, it looks fairly well organized. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised also at how thin it is. When you compare it to third edition, which is a pretty big book, and well, it's slimmed down again for fifth edition. But fourth edition is also a pretty big book. Looking inside fourth edition, it has a nice off-white color and very, very little art, very minimal use of art. There's a lot of text, and I kind of like that. It almost feels like you're looking through a period tome that someone had to pen at great personal expense of time and energy working by candlelight and sunlight. It lends that impression both from its font and the line spacing and, as I said, the very minimal use of art. Very different from the 3rd edition, which came before it, and extremely different from the 5th, which came later. Nice. In the next few months, of course, I'll be exploring more about how Ars Magica developed over time. Here in Korea, I now have the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th editions, and I'll be using that as the basis of a series of videos, just like we'll be going over Shadowrun and a few other games. In the middle of Cold&Dark, there's a series of full-color pages detailing different planetary systems, which is very helpful in a science fiction game that involves vast travel. There's a good scattering of art throughout, and a good art theme maintained. It's very dark. It's very easy to read, large print, deck plans, and that sort of thing. This is primarily a horror game, and as the title might imply. So the overall impression given by the game is one of cold, dark, unforgiving spaces. Even when there's a touch of hope of sunrise on the corner, you can't help but notice the occasional ribcage. Looks like fun. Cold&Dark tops out at just a little over 300 pages, available in hardcover, and of course, hardcover and PDF combo. And yeah, something to think about if you're looking for a violent and psychologically horrific SF game. So, thanks, Angus, for shipping these out to me. It's great to have them, and I look forward, maybe, to doing this again in the future.